Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Welcome to Financial Issues. I'm your host, Shana. Thanks for tuning in to this program. We are a ministry that helps to educate people from a biblical worldview about the financial issues of the day. So we help you understand how the things happening in the financial world can impact your own financial situation, and we help you do it in a biblical way so that you don't have to use all of the companies in your portfolio that are contributing to the moral decay of this country and things that are not aligned with your Christian values. So on today's show, we're going to get to a lot of the questions that you guys have been sending in, and we're going to talk about the impact of geopolitics on the markets as we've kind of seen this Russian-Ukraine war lingering for some time, and then a little bit of an escalation of it last week. So let's get started, though, with our stewardship verse of the day. It comes from Revelation 19:16. On his robe and on his thigh, he has the name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Of course, this scripture is referring to Jesus. And, you know, some days when we think about the future and that one day Jesus will come back to earth again and he will rule over the earth again and we'll have a government that we absolutely love. But it would be good to remember that one day is now. So even though Jesus isn't physically ruling from Jerusalem, as he will one day, he is still ruling. So he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, even now. So let's remember this truth when our attention is turned to what's happening with the earthly rulers that we can physically see before us now. What do you think, Seth?
That's great, Shana. Absolutely. This really beloved prophecy here. It describes for us the ruling, victorious Lord Jesus Christ as we see there. You know, a good question we should always ask, Shana, and you're exactly right. The Lord is reigning right now in heaven. Of course, the rule looks a little bit different than it will someday. We don't know exactly all the details, but a question we should ask knowing that is, am I living as if Jesus truly is King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Because when we understand that, it's going to impact every area of our lives. So as we look at the chaos of geopolitics around us, and some of it can get scary, we must never forget who ultimately sits on the throne. Right. We can praise God that it's Jesus Christ, and it always will be. So, amen. Well, speaking of those geopolitics, Shana, we did get a question from Brian and Kara in Illinois recently. The question is this: what would a limited Ukraine war escalation do to the market? Of course, Shana, last week, as you said, we did see some escalation of this, seemingly by the Biden administration as a parting gift for the Trump administration as they enter the office. But, Shana, how does war tend to impact the U.S. stock market? Do we see certain sectors benefit while others suffer? How do we make sense of all this?
Yeah, I was wondering what kind of antics the Biden administration would pull. You know, Obama left Iran with a huge cash parting gift as well. So be interesting to see what unfolds. So what I can tell you, though, is that markets hate uncertainty, and uncertainty always brings volatility in the markets. The market either gets excited in a positive way about something and it runs up, or it gets anxious and nervous about something and runs the other way, runs down. So war always brings fear and uncertainty, and the markets hate uncertainty, so that brings volatility. And, you know, obviously there are certain sectors that benefit. Of course, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is defense stocks. You know, if the bombings are continuing, if the armies or the militaries are using up their munitions, all of those things have to be replenished, and different things like that. You know, we've seen different things happen depending on what happens. So, you know, specifically regarding Ukraine, I guess. We have seen the markets move based on what's happening from a geopolitical standpoint. When Ukraine was first invaded by Russia back in February of 22, we saw that oil stocks were ended up being positively impacted as oil prices soared to $130 a barrel. So if oil is $130 a barrel, that means that refiners can sell their finished product for more, and they made a lot of money, and then they came under a lot of scrutiny from the Biden administration about how much profit they were making, as if that was their fault. But, when Biden put sanctions on Russian oil at the beginning, this caused oil prices to go up because there were fear of shortages. If the Russian supply of oil was taken off the market, that meant that all of the demand for oil was going to be spread over less supply. That is basically makes prices go up. And of course, we had Biden who tried to pin that inflation on Putin, calling it Putin's price hike. Now, there ended up really not being any shortages because Russia was still able to sell their oil on the markets, either on the black markets or to countries who really didn't care about U.S. sanctions like China and India. And we saw the price of oil come back down. And of course, we saw the Biden administration drain the SPR leading up to the midterm elections. So they had a chance to stay in the good graces of the people who were going to the ballot box. So after roughly, 1,000 days of Russian-Ukrainian war now, I think we've sort of become desensitized. So the markets initially reacted when Ukraine was invaded by dropping around 20%. So from February through October of 22, the S&P 500 dropped about 20%. But by June of 23, less than a year later, the market had recovered and has just gone on to all new highs as we've continued to be bombarded with the news of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine and all of the money that we've been sending, money and munitions and equipment that we've been sending over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question, Shana. What advice would you give our listeners who want to prepare for how these foreign conflicts may impact their investments? My personal hope is that with the Trump administration, he has touted peace through strength. And so hopefully we'll get a 4-year reprieve from seeing these conflicts coming. But of course, anything can happen. How would you advise us to do this well?
Well, I believe that we're in the end times, and I'm glad to see that Trump's going to be taking office, and I do think that he will give his best effort to rule with peace through strength. But I think time is getting short, and the powers that be are getting more and more agitated, and we're seeing countries prepare all over the world, and so eventually the Bible prophesies that we're going to see an increase in wars and rumors of wars and things like that. So are we there yet? I don't know. Maybe we have a 4-year reprieve, and if we do, we should use that time in the most efficient way that we can, trying to win souls for Christ. But I think that you can't live in fear of the future. So many times in the Bible, we're told, do not fear, do not be afraid, be of good courage. Don't worry about the future. Don't worry about what you'll eat or what you'll drink. And I would just, I'm not in the habit of adding to scripture, but I would say that sort of encompasses, don't worry about your portfolio either. Do the best that you can. Use the information that you can know, the information that's available to you now, and make good decisions about it. And the best decision that you can make about it is that you honor God in the way that you invest, and you just more than avoiding companies because you think there's going to be some geopolitical conflict. It's better to avoid companies because they're spending money to promote agendas that you don't agree with as a Christian. So, honoring God means not investing in a company that's promoting abortion, pornography, the LGBTQ agenda, all of those things, human rights violation, all of those things that grieve the heart of the Lord and are just not aligned with what we would be called to use our money to support.
Well said, Shana. Thank you so much for that encouragement. Let's get to a quick question here on Ask Shana. Mickey is saying, I'm retired. I follow the 65 to retired asset allocation model. And I'm wondering what are best or recommended websites to locate the 4 to 5% interest rate for money markets and CDs?
Yeah. So if you're talking about for your portfolio, I would just stick with one place. I wouldn't worry about spreading that around or, going and finding the highest yield, because those yields are going to change. As interest rates come down, they're going to follow as well. So if this is in your portfolio, just use the highest yielding money market account that your brokerage platform offers. If it's for other money, then, I guess you could look around. But like I said, they're going to be competitive with each other. You're always going to find companies or financial institutions that are using higher rates to try to attract deposits, and you're going to end up moving the money around a whole lot. And cash is for stability. Get the best rate that you can get on it, but it's not. Cash is really not for generating return. All right, we got to take a break, right?
Yep, I think so.
So break coming up. Well, folks, we hope that if you're watching on social media, YouTube, Rumble, what's the other one? YouTube, Rumble, Facebook.
You can, Instagram.
Yep.
Truth Social. Yep.
Comments, questions up there, and we'll be getting to those as we get to a lot more questions that have been sent in to us right after this break.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay or to go, to remain the same or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common: the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
My name is Reagan Gardner, and I am in the 4th grade. Last year, I wanted to be like everybody else. I thought I had to act different, look different, and be different to be cool. When I joined Crossroads, I learned that God loves me just the way that I am.
Help reach more kids like Reagan with the hope of the gospel. To learn more about Crossroads Kids Club and how you can get involved, visit reachourschools.com.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done and with your generosity.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. Thanks for tuning in today. I like that bumper music.
Hey, it's nice.
A little snazzy.
It's a little jazzy. Yeah. Reminds me of Charlie Brown Thanksgiving coming up here. This is good stuff.
Oh, Thanksgiving, yes. Yes, so thankful for Thanksgiving.
Only playing the best tune, Shana.
There you go. That's right.
You're like Trump with your playlist, right?
That's right. That's right. We were doing the YMCA dance, Shana, this little ditty here. Yeah, so it's fun.
Oh, what
fun
did
stuff.
I see? One of those sports leagues were going to try to ban that.
Yeah, I heard talks that the NFL was rumored to ban it. They came out and kind of covered their rear ends and said, no, people can do it, because they didn't, promote Black Lives Matter for like 3 years and shove it down our throats. But anyway.
Or kneel for the
exactly.
national anthem.
Yeah.
That good stuff.
Ridiculous.
All right. Well, let's get to some financial issues.
Sounds good.
What do inquiring minds want to know?
Yeah, so Bob up first here. Bob on the website saying, I see on the internet several stock advisors stating that there are 3 small companies that partner with TE91. Now, this was one of your buy stocks some time ago, bought based on your suggestions, have had good results. I see you have a buy for TE26. Is TE26 one of these small partners? If so, I'd like to buy it. Perhaps it stands alone and would be a good buy on its own. Thanks for your help. What do you think, Shana, for Bob? He doesn't say his age.
Well, I I don't really follow every stock advisor that's out there. We've got certain, research that me and the team of analysts will use, but I don't really know exactly which 3 companies that he's speaking of, but I can answer the question about the company, the TE26 that's on our list. I don't know if that's one of the companies that he's reading about that's partners with TE91, but this company certainly can benefit from AI. So most of the companies in our technology space on our buy list and some in the utility sector are going to be very big beneficiaries of AI.
Yep. Very good, Shana. Amanda is up next here. Amanda doesn't say her age, but I think she's asking on behalf of her 20-year-old daughter to set up a Roth. Her daughter's working, taking college classes, says, I currently have one through Timothy and Schwab. What would be the best route to go with her, and what would be the best stocks or mutual funds for her to put some money in right now, just to put in a little and leave it alone? What would you say for Amanda?
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad to see that you're doing that.
Yeah, that's good.
Amanda, this is going to get your daughter started in the right direction. I hope that you'll gift her a membership to Financial Issues as well. By the way, you can do that, folks. It is gift giving season, and that's a gift that will continue to give.
And Shana, I don't know if I'm speaking out of term yet, but very soon, I think for the month of December, we're going to offer a deal for gifting a partnership. So I believe it's going to be $99 if you gift a partnership. So a little bit of a discount there for Christmas as well.
All right, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Good. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that you open an account at a discount brokerage, whichever one you're using, if you like the platform that you're on. That way she can buy everything. She could buy the mutual funds, she could buy the ETFs, and she could buy the stocks. So, I think a good place to start is maybe with one of the more growth-oriented ETFs. That's going to give her a good diversified base. She won't be subject to, what happens with any one company. And then, as you add to it or as that grows, you can maybe, sell off some of the profits and then branch into some other things. For someone who's 20 years old, now you want to make sure that she's not going to, be able to or want to take this money out in short order, like, maybe to pay for college or to pay off some student loans or to get a house or, to get her family set up or things like this. This really needs to be long-term money for her to, consider investing in stocks or ETFs. But that's what I would do. I would use maybe one of the ETFs as a good solid base because, depending on which one you get, one that I'm thinking of right now is the large cap one. I mean, there's roughly 300 companies in that one ETF. So you're going to get great diversification there. And then, you could start, especially if you get into one of the discount brokerages that allow you to buy fractional shares or allow you to, let's just say, add money in every single month, like on a regular basis, even if it's just, $25 or $50, you could start building positions in individual stocks. And when you only have one or two stocks, that's a great opportunity to learn as much as you can about that company. And that really starts to instill the idea and the concept that we're not trading stocks. We're not just, the market's not just some arbitrary thing that moves up and down with, no good explanation or no reason leading it, that you're actually taking ownership positions. You're taking a long-term position in a company. So if you see, a great company, if it's somewhere that you shop a lot or, somewhere that you spend a lot of money in, as long as they're biblically responsible, then, you have a good basic understanding of how that company works. And then, it instills the principles of entrepreneurship because, maybe you can't go and open your own retail store or your own, chip company or something like that. But you can easily invest in a company that's already going, it's already public, and it gives you a great opportunity to learn as much as you can.
Awesome, Shana. That's good. Speaking of ETFs, let's stay on that topic for a moment, because Brad, who doesn't say his age, is also asking about ETFs. He says, I just now had a chance to try and bypass the minimum purchase of $100,000 on the Timothy Plan ETFs. Unfortunately, it won't let me, so he called his brokerage. They basically let him do a page on their website where he says, I can create my own screening process to buy other ETFs and mutual funds through them with my brokerage account. I don't like it because it defeats the purpose of being a partner with you guys. I just noticed there's not a minimum on a couple of the ETFs from the old asset allocation model for Timothy Plan. He mentions ETF 2 and ETF 4, both available without a minimum. And I wonder if I could just go by the old asset allocation model. We're just getting started on investing. You have any insight for Brad?
Yeah, so you shouldn't have any trouble buying any of the ETFs. There shouldn't be any minimums with ETFs because ETFs trade like stocks. So you can buy one share up to 1,000 shares if you want to, and you shouldn't have any problem doing that on a discount brokerage. Now, the $100,000 minimum is for Timothy Plan I shares. So there's A shares, there's C shares, and there's I shares that you could potentially buy on your brokerage platform. It's the I shares that tend to have a minimum purchase of $100,000 because I shares are supposed to be reserved only for, or only available when you work with an advisor who charges you an advisory fee, because it strips out some of the fees that would be paid to the advisor since they're charging their own fee. So if you try to buy the A share, now the A share on the mutual fund is going to charge you an upfront sales commission, but it's just one time, and that's okay. So try using the ticker symbol if you're trying to fill out a specific mutual fund position. Instead of using the I share symbol, use the A share symbol, and that should work. They're really, especially if it's in an IRA, there probably won't be any minimums. If it's not in an IRA, they may have like a $2,500 minimum or something like that, but sometimes they'll allow you to bypass those. So it may just be the I shares on the mutual funds, not the ETFs, that you're having trouble with. As far as using the old models, I would not do that. So all of the models are currently under review right now. So I would not use the old ones, because would really hate for you to get into a position right now that maybe you have to reduce or sell down the road. So the fixed income funds are very likely to stay in the models. ETF 7, ETF 5, and the international funds and ETFs, including the Israel, are likely, but I would hold off on the others for now.
Good, Shana. Thank you for that. Kim up next, 63 years old, is Kim. She says, how do I implement an asset allocation strategy as part of my overall plan? I've heard you say to put investments with high growth potential into a Roth account. I'm looking at the buy list, and would all the stocks that say growth be good candidates for the Roth account, or should I consider only the blue highlighted stocks and look at cap size and sector as well? And she's wondering also about E60 and UT37 in that Roth account. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
UT37 for sure, even though that is a utility stock and you normally wouldn't put utility stocks in your Roth account where you're wanting to get the most aggressive growth. The exception comes with utility stocks that are related to the AI sector. So that is, UT37 is one of those. So I would love to see that one in a Roth account. I would also start with technology stocks. Just about any technology stock that's on our list is going to be a good candidate for a Roth. Some healthcare stocks as well. And then the blue highlighted stocks, or the income stocks, or stocks that are labeled as growth in income or income, really should be reserved for your other types of accounts. Really focus on the ones that say growth, and you'll really do okay if you especially look at the technology sector.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Shana. Hey, to switch gears real quick, if you don't mind, I'd love to let our listeners know that Bible study meets tomorrow. We are not meeting on Friday this week because it's Thanksgiving week, so we'll be meeting tomorrow, usual 6:30 Eastern time.
That's great. And for partners only.
Yes. New partner benefit. pretty cool.
Yep, tell them about that.
Yeah, so if you're a partner, folks, you can now get access to the previous Bible studies. I think there's 8 or 9 Bible studies that are up there on the partner side of the website right now. We still do our regular live Bible study every Friday morning, except this week, because it'll be tomorrow. But if you missed that Bible study and you are a partner, you can get access to it. Just go to the partner side of the website, go down to Bible Study Archives page, and that'll get you right there, so you can listen to past ones if you've missed them.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Don't we have one more question from social?
We do have one more question, Shana. I wasn't sure if you wanted to share a little Thanksgiving blessing with us, as I know you'll be heading out for the holiday here. But we can get to this question if you'd like. It's up to you.
Yeah, no. Let me take opportunity just to say everything that I'm grateful for.
Sounds good.
I'm grateful for Dan and his commitment to this ministry, to being faithful to God's voice and listening, and starting this ministry. I'm grateful that I came across this ministry and learned about biblically responsible investing. I'm grateful for everyone in the BRS space that is working hard to defund darkness. And I'm grateful for all of our partners, because, this is a listener and partner supported ministry. And if it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't have a way to be on the air and to come to you and to help you in these endeavors. And of course, the staff of Financial Issues, everyone works so hard to put this together. And of course, my family, my church, all of those things that, people talk about being grateful for. Don't have time to go into all of that, but we hope that you are spending Thanksgiving week and the day, maybe the day after, loving on your family, getting together with family, because that is the most important thing, and to share with them the most important thing in the world, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Well, folks, if you're listening on an outlet that only carries a short version of the show, we wish you a farewell. But for the rest of you, stick around. We've got more Financial Issues coming up right after this.
When a woman comes into a center, she's being pressured from her family, from her friends, by her circumstances, by the rhetoric of the culture to believe that this is a quick and easy way out. If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done and with your generosity. And so we just encourage you to make a difference at whatever degree you can, whether you can do a $28 contribution for one ultrasound, whether you can underwrite an ultrasound machine for $15,000 or 10 ultrasound machines for $150,000. Where does the Lord have you so that you can make a difference?
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Kids all across the nation are facing challenges such as isolation and loneliness and bullying, but there's still hope and the love of Jesus, and we want to bring that to those kids.
Today, Crossroads has 6 focus regions across the country. We are committed to adding 5 more regional coordinators, reaching more kids than ever before, but we can't do it without you.
God is doing something new, and we can see it in the lives of kids across America. Children are finding hope and belonging and community and purpose in the love of Jesus. The The gospel is going into schools, and we need your help. We are trusting God to raise $200,000 of new funding. This funding will allow us to have 5 additional focus regions, as well as a team member who will oversee all of our regions. Please join us for this Drive for 5 in 2025. Let's place 5 new team members in cities around the nation and watch what God will do.
To help spread the love of Jesus to children across the country, go to crossroadskidsclub.com/5 in 2025.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
And welcome back to Financial Issues, folks. Good to be here with you. Hope you enjoyed that section there with Shana. Always fun to answer your partner questions. We appreciate that so very much. I do hope you made note as well. We are meeting for Bible study tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we'll meet for Bible study this week, so make sure you make provisions for that. Of course, if you can't make it this week, we got that special feature for partners. You might consider listening to the Bible study on Friday if you can't make it tomorrow, but you can listen to it at any time you want to because it's available for you now on the Bible study archives page if you are a partner with the ministry. If you're not a partner with the ministry, you can still get the Bible study. You just have to come live, and we will be live tomorrow. Wednesday. So make sure you do that. Also, check out Shana's commentary for the week. Really good stuff this week from Shana. So make sure that you get a chance to read through that and digest that a little bit as the buy list continues to be built back up here. Quickly, before we get to our interview, because I've got Craig Haugaard joining me for some interesting things to talk about here, we did see the markets seem pretty pleased with Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary, which we'll get to that in a little bit. By mid-afternoon, all 3 indices were positive. By late afternoon, same story. By the closing bell yesterday, the Dow was up a full percentage point. The S&P was up about 0.3%. The NASDAQ was flat, and is flat this early with pre-market trading right now. As we're sitting here, pretty mixed. The Dow is down about 0.25%. The S&P is up about 1/5, and the NASDAQ is up about 1/4, I think. Hang on, let me just make sure that that's refreshed here. Yeah, so it's a little bit different now. Sorry, my screen was about 10 minutes behind. So the Dow is more down probably 2/5 percentage point. The S&P is up about 1/3, and the NASDAQ is up about 1/2. So a little bit higher than what we saw in the pre-market trading there. A bit more of a extremity away from the flat line. So, folks, a special treat for you here. Craig Haugaard was on with us recently. I think it was within the last week or so, but I thought to myself 2 things. Number 1, this show needs more brilliance, and Craig provides it. And number 2, quite frankly, we have some interesting news to talk about, and so I needed Craig to come on and give his expertise. Craig, happy Thanksgiving to you, brother. Thanks for coming on again in such short notice, man.
Not a problem. I always appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, Seth. So looking forward to this.
Absolutely, man. Likewise. We were just talking off the air about how, we have a holiday coming up and we'll spend time with our family and friends. But honestly, does it get any better than this? I mean, an interview with Craig Haugaard on a Tuesday morning, this is where it's at, man.
Well, it pretty much completed my Christmas wish list.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So
that's awesome.
Life is good.
That's awesome,
man.
Well, let's get right to it, brother. The big reason I wanted to have you on, other than your brilliance, of course, is to hear your thoughts on Trump's pick for Ag Secretary. So we heard this news, I think it was yesterday. What can you tell us about Brooke Rollins, this pick for Ag Secretary, and what do you think of this pick?
I think it caught everybody totally by surprise, to be honest with you. I've been looking at the lists that were out there, and I did not see Brooke any place on there. So I think when that came out, it really caught people by surprise. From an ag policy background, she doesn't have a lot of experience, though. In Trump's first term, she served as the domestic policy chief, and that included some agricultural policy, so she does have exposure to that. Graduated from Texas A&M with an undergrad degree, I believe, was in agricultural development, and I believe also grew up on a farm. So there's definitely a rural background and I think an understanding of rural America, which is going to be really welcomed. I do think that really his picks this go-round for cabinet have he's been picking people that are loyal to him and will advance his agenda. And I think she certainly fits the bill there. After his first term, she became president of the America First Policy Institute, which is the group that really helped lay the groundwork here for the second Trump administration. So I think she's qualified, though certainly the pick caught a lot of people by surprise. And I do think that he's really surrounding himself with people that he can trust to really advance the agenda that he wants to see move forward.
Yeah, that's definitely good news to see, Craig. I would agree with you completely. I'm so far, I'd say cautiously optimistic with some of these picks. Sam and I were just talking off the air that many of the picks seem to be really good, and then some of the other ones are just kind of unknowns. And it might seem like this one might be one here. Craig, in your sense, I think, Sorry, go ahead.
No, I would agree with that. I think this is very much an unknown, but I think, from an agriculture perspective, also the thing that we shouldn't overlook is that Senator Thune of South Dakota is now going to be the majority leader, and I think he's going to really have the best interest of agriculture at heart. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to see how he advocates for agriculture alongside of the Trump policy. But I think those two ultimately will be good for America's farmers.
Yeah. And, Craig, speaking of the farmers of the country, what is your sense from some of your colleagues as they see this pick? Do they feel like there's potential for good days ahead? What do they think?
Yeah, I think so. I think if there's any nervousness out there, it's around a couple of the other picks. If you look at Lee Zeldin for EPA, has been kind of anti-biofuels. And, of course, Robert Kennedy Jr. is kind of an anti-GMO guy.
Yeah.
So I think those two probably cause a little bit more heartburn in farm country than the pick of Brooke Rollins does for Ag Secretary.
Yeah, good stuff, brother. Thank you for bringing that up to speed for us, Craig. As we were talking there, a question that just came to mind. Do you have any updates on, I can't remember if it was the last time we had you on or the time before, you were talking about this unfortunate thing that's happening, kind of a sinister thing that's happening in our country where the U.S. government is basically seizing farmland. Is that still happening, and do you see potentially that could be decreased under a Trump administration?
Yeah, it wasn't so much seizing as it was the open fields policy, which allowed them to go on the land without any search warrants, without any reason.
Right,
and
okay.
About 90, if I remember right, 96% of all farmland falls into that category.
Yeah.
And I do think that is going to be, I believe will be radically changed in this next 4 years. It needs to be, as you look at the protections that Americans enjoy, it just seems to be kind of a loophole that allows for some very heavy-handed government that I'm pretty confident our forefathers never intended to be that way. So I do think that will be front and center in this new administration. I look for some dramatic and very positive changes in that area.
Absolutely. Certainly no way to run a country is to be able to have something like that. So really a terrible way to treat your farmers. But yes, I agree, brother. Hopefully we can see a change in course of that under the Trump administration. Craig, as we're coming up to the Thanksgiving holiday here, I thought we'd switch gears for just a moment. No better place to go when Thanksgiving comes than on our knees in gratitude to God for upholding us. We joke often about our brilliance on the show. The reality is, in all seriousness, we are but worms in the dirt compared to the great God of heaven and earth who has loved us and treated us so kindly. Craig, how do we see the divine power of God on display kind of in the cyclical motion of the agricultural world? We're coming up to harvest season right now. We actually have the holiday to celebrate harvest season with this Thanksgiving feast that we're going to have. How do you see the divine power of God on display in this way?
I think God has a great sense of humor, for one thing. Yeah. And let me illustrate that. As you're saying, Thanksgiving was meant to celebrate the bountiful harvest and that they'd made it through another year. I mean, we tend to forget that, a third of all the pilgrims died in the first year or something like that.
Something ridiculous,
a huge number. So I don't know what that harvest looked like. I didn't see any government surveys of yields back in 1621.
Right.
But I did go back and look to see how far back those went. And 1866 was the first year that we actually tried to measure yields in the United States. In that year, nationwide, we averaged just a touch over 24 bushels of corn per acre. And then you jump forward to 1918, and the national average yield that year was 23.9 bushels per acre. So let's assume that there really hadn't been any change. The Pilgrims probably got 20 bushel an acre as well. But what has happened in the past few decades is, I think, a testament to advances in science that have unlocked the potential that God placed in each kernel of seed. 1978 was the first year that we had a national average yield of over 100 bushels per acre. And this year, they're projecting we're going to be a little over 183 bushels per acre.
Wow.
You go back to 1968, and Paul Ehrlich wrote a book, The Population Bomb, and he predicted that overpopulation was going to lead to mass starvation. A very apocalyptic view, and certainly not a Christ-centered view.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, the reality is that we've seen what God has created to be unlocked and start to realize the potential in each one of those seeds,
Absolutely.
And instead of famine, we've got surpluses of food in this country and are feeding the entire world. So I really think it's there's a lot of ways to go with that. Unlocking the potential in the seed has been remarkable, and I think there's more there. It also kind of makes me wonder how much we unlock the potential that God has placed in each one of us.
Amen.
And what that would look like.
Absolutely. Craig, we appreciate those words so much, man. You are one of my dear friends, and in the list of things I'm thankful for, you are up there at the top, man. And I know our audience feels the exact same way. So, brother, hope you have just a wonderful Thanksgiving. God bless you, and we appreciate everything you do for us here at the ministry. Folks, we got more financial issues coming up right after this. Stay with us. At Financial Issues, we understand the profound impact your support has in driving our mission forward. Through your donations, we're able to expand our reach on more radio and more TV stations, spreading the word about biblically responsible investing. Now, your money also supports us as we do the critical analytical work needed to identify high-quality, biblically responsible companies. So donate today at financialissues.org/donate. Again, that's financialissues.org/donate.
We want to try to provide the freshest possible and healthiest possible produce for our neighbors and our friends and the people that we are able to touch in their lives. Part of it is also the connection between people. Yes, it's a nourishing thing for food, but it's also ministry for us. Samaritan Ministries is a perfect fit because it's helping other people directly with their medical needs.
My wife and I, we moved into this neighborhood. We had some experience with Crossroads Kids Club. We had served at another club. We kind of thought to ourselves, like, it would be really, really cool for us to actually bring in a club that was able to share the love of Jesus with kids directly into the school. And so we started our Crossroads at Hilltop.
Crossroads is amazing. You can learn all kinds of things about God. That He loves all of us. He died on the cross to pay for our sins. That He will help me in every way.
There is just such tremendous opportunity to reach kids in some of these areas that just aren't being reached.
Sometimes I pray every night. When I feel alone sometimes, God is right there sitting next to me. I can rely on Him no matter what happens.
To learn more about Crossroads Kids Club and how you can get involved, visit reachourschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Thanks for hanging with us here, folks. Always love having Craig on the program. He is one of the most brilliant guys I've ever met and just a dear friend and brother in Christ. And hopefully you're able to hear his wisdom on display in that last segment. If you missed it, you can go back and listen to the podcast. But just really good stuff there from Craig. The chat of the day here. So Brian with a zinger from Wildwood, Missouri, saying Missouri courts held up our new only U.S. citizen voting law, and a court also held up a ban on gender mutilation surgeries on minors. I'm sure the unhinged radicals will try to appeal Brian, awesome stuff there from your home state. Keep on fighting for that, brother. That is
maybe they'll
great.
need milk and cookies, Seth. We talked about that yesterday.
That's right. Maybe they'll need some milk and cookies. Seriously. But you know what? It's always great news to see people who want to chop the genitals off of children lose. I love that, and I want to see more of it. It's awesome stuff. Really good. All right, Sam, speaking of good news, we got some great news to talk about in the BRI space here. What do we got going on with Walmart?
Yeah. It looks like Robbie Starbuck has really reeled in the mother lode of a catch here by getting Walmart, of all companies, to abandon its DEI policies. He put out a post last night
Big
just
news,
going
folks.
through. Yeah, this is just unbelievably huge. It's hard to overstate how big this is, because I have a feeling this is going to set the tone for many more companies going forward. Although, as we've seen from Robbie Starbuck, he's already set that in motion. But I think Walmart is really going to start to change things here. So just a highlight of some of the things that are going to change at Walmart. I'm not going to go through everything they're changing, but here are some of the big ones. One is surveys. That is, Walmart will no longer participate in the HRC's Woke Corporate Equality Index. Again, I'm getting this from Robbie Starbuck himself. Products. They will monitor the Walmart marketplace to identify and remove inappropriate sexual and or transgender products marketed to children. Kind of sad they had those in the first place, but I guess it's good that they're getting rid of those. Also, they're getting rid of fundings and grants for Pride and or other events to avoid funding inappropriate sexualized content targeting children. That list goes on, but those are, I think, some of the really big ones as well. They're also getting rid of racial equity and transgender trainings, things like that, for their corporate employees as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, Sam. Sam. Sorry, I called you Stam.
Yeah, I can be Stan. I can be whatever you want. I'm just happy to be here.
You're a good friend. Yeah, that is just absolutely amazing news. This is part of the good work that, of course, Robbie Starbuck has been doing. I think we kind of would consider ourselves Sam's allies with him. Doing a similar work here for sure. Yeah. But just really, really good news. Now, here's a couple things to think about with this, folks. Number one, doesn't mean Walmart is biblically responsible again, for sure, but it is a good sign nonetheless. I think, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong if you know this, but in our ministry's history, there was one time where Walmart was on our buy list.
Oh, yes.
Right now it is not.
Well, you need to remember that Sam Walton, who founded Walmart, was a huge Christian, and he created the idea of leading Walmart with this idea of Christ-like servant leadership. But as we can see, it's really strayed from the vision of Sam Walton, just like we've seen with so many other companies founded by Christians and good, strong, conservative people like Hershey. Milton Hershey was a wonderful Christian man, and so was Walt Disney. So when we can see where those companies have gone far from the vision that their founders had originally imagined for their companies.
Absolutely. And what I'm hoping to see here, Sam, is, it's funny, we talk about like when the markets bottom out and then they start to go back up again. I'm hoping that we see a bottoming out here of this movement, and I think we have. Last year, if you remember, I think maybe it was last year that Target was kind of the spearhead of the Pride movement in the month of June. Walmart, unfortunately, kind of took that mantle this year. It wasn't as bad as Target was last year, but I'm wondering, Sam, if that's that low water mark, if maybe we'll start to see a change here.
And you know where this could change things too, because the problem with the Target boycott, although I did support it, is unlike Bud Light, where you had a ready alternative, you can just buy any other beer if you're a beer drinker, you can just stop drinking beer. You still need to shop for things. So if all you have in your neighborhood is a Target and a Walmart, your choices aren't that great because both of them are doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Now, if Walmart's the one dropping the DEI stuff and you really want to stick it to Target, you do have an option to make your point known, because before it just wasn't available.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So once again, folks, this is not a recommendation to buy Walmart. We need to see my belief here is that we want to see some more long-term consistency with this, and also looking into the nature of it too. I mean, just because a company abandons DEI initiatives, it doesn't mean that they're now all of a sudden biblically responsible. That's a really good step in the right direction, and it could mean that for sure, but doesn't necessarily mean that. What we're seeing here, I think what we can celebrate with this is fantastic news. Fantastic news, Sam. Just as you had said there, this now provides people, from a patronage perspective, perhaps an option to be able to do some Christmas shopping where you you can feel good in your conscience knowing you're not giving your money over in a patronage sense to a company that hates you and hates your children and wants to murder babies and wants to mutilate children. So I think it's just tremendous news here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, where else did you have to go before? You had Amazon, pretty woke.
Yep.
Target, the wokest. Yep. And then you had Walmart, which was, I don't know, somewhere in between those two.
Trending
maybe
downwards.
Less than Amazon, but now you really do have an option, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely good stuff. So, folks, be encouraged, man. The cultural tide is turning here. It really is. These petitions that we're doing, this way that we are investing in a biblically responsible way where we're trying to keep the money out of these wicked companies, it is working. And I think we're seeing a cultural tide shift. I think we saw it in the election. I think we're seeing it in the corporate world. I think we're seeing it in people waking up and realizing how nonsensical so much of this DEI stuff is. And it's good news. It's exciting stuff.
And the DEI people know it too. I saw a report. I'm probably going to highlight it next week when we get back from Thanksgiving, where you had people running a DEI company basically saying, DEI is dead as it stands right now. Hopefully it stays dead. They're thinking they could maybe bring it back in a different form. But even right now, they're recognizing, this is a defeat. It's not going anywhere.
Absolutely. Yep. And we would love to see it die, wouldn't we? We'd love to see this thing just go to the wayside. Just like seeing people who do these horrible things to children and people who abort babies. When we see them lose, we cheer, we applaud. Absolutely. We want to see that too with this. Absolutely. Good stuff, Sam. What else do we have here? I know, speaking of Trump naming cabinet members, we saw a very important name here in terms of the financial space. What do we have from Trump's picks here, Sam?
Yeah, so Scott Bessent is the guy's name. Trump on Saturday nominated him. He's a billionaire hedge fund manager and the founder of Key Square Capital Management, and Trump named him Treasury Secretary on Saturday. And that kind of raised some eyebrows because Bessent is a protege of George Soros, of all people, the boogeyman from the left who's been funding billions and billions of dollars into left-wing stuff, many of the stuff we're opposed to. So that's really got people nervous because this guy worked there for decades. I even heard a report that said he maybe for a time was the heir apparent to the Soros company, the Soros Fund Management. He rose through the ranks for decades. He left there in 2015 as chief investment officer. So that's got some people kind of nervous. Although I should note, and this is no way to completely exonerate him. We'll have to wait and see how good he is. Maybe he'll be terrible. Carol Roth, she's a business reporter, a business opinion journalist. She talked to Glenn Beck about him, and she said there's a couple things that are important to note about this. One is that as much as George Soros is known and rightly known on the right as this terrible person who's funding all kinds of horrible things like woke AGs to let criminals out of prison, LGBT stuff, and just radical leftist policy, he's also a very sophisticated financial investor. So it shouldn't be that surprising to see that sophisticated financial investors like him are drawn to that, and he's going to draw a lot of financial talent. And in fact, we've actually have seen quite a few conservatives come out from his company. And this is something that Scott actually mentioned himself while he was on Fox News last month. I think we do have that clip. Oh, do we not? Okay, apparently we don't. Anyway, he did mention that, and he said, I came from the belly of the beast here, so I think I know what I'm talking about. On top of that, Carol also mentioned that he has been known in the past, despite working for Soros, to push back against him. For example, I think she said in 2014, Soros wanted to divest from Israel. He walked in and said, over my dead body, if you do that, that means I'm going to leave the company. So that seems to suggest, at least from a 1,000-foot view, that he was involved with Soros more for a financial perspective, less an ideological one. So that is some good news, although it is important to note that he isn't exactly a conservative pick. He's largely been a man of the left for most of his life. He's donated to Democrats. He's a married gay guy who's really pushed for the same-sex marriage stuff. So not a traditional conservative pick, but he has slowly moved to the Trump side of the aisle. Now, to look at his policy, typical stuff here. He wants his 3-3-3 policy. That means 3% gross domestic product growth, cutting the deficit to 3% of GDP by 2028, and increasing energy production to 3 million barrels of oil per day. He's also a supporter of tariffs and deregulation and tax cuts as well. So, kind of a complicated guy. Like we said, we might have to just wait and see how he's going to do. He's very well credentialed. He's considered very smart, but I think that conservatives are right to be a little skeptical of him at this time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sam, I think it's true. I'm a little little nervous. Anyone in a close personal relationship with George Soros, it definitely could make us a little bit nervous. There is a part of me that is wondering, you know what, maybe this is exactly what the Trump administration needs. Maybe they need someone who, like you said, was in the belly of the beast, who maybe his true colors will be coming out as he serves in that Trump administration as well. Certainly not something that we haven't seen before in history, where we've seen people who were in the belly of the beast on one side going to the other side. The Apostle Paul was one of them. I'm certainly not trying to equate a financial manager in a presidential administration to the greatest Christian apostle to ever live, but there are some comparisons there as well.
Well, even with the Trump cabinet so far, you have Tulsi Gabbard and you have RFK, so this is not unheard of for Trump even this time around.
The hope here is that we're seeing people waking up, and we're seeing people moving towards what we believe is the right direction here. Folks, it's an exciting time, and it's a good time to become a partner as well. I do hope you'll consider joining us as well for Bible study for the show tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the day, folks. Remember, everything you have belongs to the Lord. Let's be good and faithful stewards with all of it. God bless you all. See you tomorrow for more financial issues.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.